Okay, so are you ready to like dive into a world where things aren't quite as they seem?
Mm.
The mind-bending world of quantum physics?
Oh, yeah.
The kind of stuff that makes you question, everything you thought you knew about reality?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're doing today.
Right.
Inspired by Carlo Rovelli's book, Reality is Not What It Seems.
Of course.
And let me tell you, this book is a wild ride.
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing book. I think what's so captivating of Ravelli's approach
Yeah.
is how he kind of takes us on this journey, starting with our everyday understanding of reality, and then he progressively peels back the layers to reveal this like much deeper, more interconnected universe.
All right, so let's start unpacking this.
Okay.
Our first stop, the evolution of how we humans have understood reality itself. It's kind of crazy to think that what we consider facts today might be completely overturned tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like you're upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone.
Oh, yeah.
You're still communicating.
Yeah.
But the possibilities and understanding of how it all works are on a whole different level.
Right.
Think about how classical physics,
Yeah.
with its neat and predictable laws, seemed to explain the world for centuries. But then quantum mechanics came along, zoomed in on the subatomic level, and suddenly everything got a lot weirder.
So it's like we switched from a standard definition TV to a 4K Ultra HD screen.
Yeah.
We're seeing reality in a whole new resolution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest resolution upgrades came with the shift from certainty to probability.
Okay.
In the quantum world, things aren't so clear-cut.
Yeah.
Instead of saying an electron IS here,
Right.
we have to say it has a certain probability of being here, there, or even in multiple places at once.
Hold on, multiple places at once.
Yeah.
Is that just a limitation in our measurement tools?
It's a great question.
Or is the electron actually doing some kind of quantum gymnastics routine?
Nope. This isn't a measurement error. It's like trying to photograph a hummingbird in flight.
Okay.
The very act of trying to pinpoint its location changes where it is.
Yeah.
Except with electrons, it's even weirder.
Okay.
They genuinely exist in a state of multiple possibilities until we interact with them.
Okay, my brain is officially starting to bend.
Yeah.
So how does Rovelli take this idea of quantum weirdness
Right.
and connect it to the big picture of reality?
This is where his idea of a relational universe comes in.
Okay.
It's like realizing that the hummingbird's flight isn't happening in isolation, but in relation to the air, the flowers, even the photographer trying to capture it.
So instead of looking at things as existing independently,
Yeah,
we have to consider how they're constantly influencing and defining each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like looking at your own identity. It's shaped by your relationships, your experiences, your job, your home.
Yeah.
None of these things exist in a vacuum.
Right.
They're all interconnected
Yeah.
and constantly influencing one another, creating the you that you are.
Okay. That's a pretty profound way to look at it.
Yeah.
So how does this relational idea apply to, say, space and time?
Right.
Those seem pretty fundamental and unchanging, right?
And even Einstein blew our minds when he
Yeah.
said space and time aren't separate, but interconnected as space-time.
Right.
But Rovelli takes it a step further.
Okay.
He argues that space-time itself is dynamic,
Okay.
emerging from the interactions of quantum fields.
Hold on. So instead of a fixed stage where the universe plays out,
Yeah.
space-time is more like a constantly morphing dance floor that's actually being shaped by the dancers themselves.
You got it.
Wow.
Imagine a bowling ball on a trampoline.
Okay.
The ball, representing mass, creates a dip in the trampoline,
Okay.
representing the warping of space-time.
Okay.
It's not just that the ball exists in space-time.
Right.
It's that the ball are actively shaping the very fabric of space-time itself.
Wow, that's a wild image. So everything from the tiniest particles to giant stars is constantly warping and weaving the very fabric of reality.
Precisely.
Wow.
And if we follow this logic,
Yeah.
it leads us to some pretty mind-blowing questions.
Okay.
Especially when we start thinking about the biggest, most mysterious force of all, gravity.
Okay.
Gravity.
Right. So we've established that in a relational universe, everything's interconnected and constantly influencing everything else.
Right.
But where does gravity fit into all of this?
Yeah.
It seems like such a fundamental force,
Right.
yet we're still scratching our heads trying to fully understand it.
It's true. Gravity remains one of the biggest mysteries in this whole relational picture.
Yeah.
On one hand, we have Einstein's theory of general relativity, which beautifully explains gravity on large scales, like planets orbiting stars.
Right.
But when we zoom into the quantum level where particles are doing their crazy dance, general relativity and quantum mechanics just don't seem to get along.
So it's like having two sets of instructions for building a house.
Yeah.
One for the overall structure and another for the individual atoms that make up the walls.
Yeah.
And they just don't quite match up.
Exactly. This clash of theories has puzzled physicists for decades.
Yeah.
And it's precisely this puzzle that Rovelli dives headfirst into, leading him to some truly radical ideas.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay.
How does Rovelli tackle this clash of the titans?
He suggests we might need to rethink our fundamental concept of space and time. See, we tend to think of them as continuous and smooth, like a perfectly flat sheet of paper.
Right.
But Rovelli proposes that at the Planck scale, which is the smallest possible unit of measurement, space-time might actually be granular, like a mosaic made of tiny interconnected tiles.
Wait, so instead of being smooth and continuous, space-time is more like pixelated.
That's a great analogy. It's like comparing a high-resolution image to one that's super zoomed in, where you start to see the individual pixels.
Yeah.
And according to Rovelli, these pixels of space-time, which he calls loops of gravity, exist in a realm beyond space and time as we know them.
Okay, loops of gravity. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
It does, doesn't it?
Is there any way to actually visualize these loops?
Yeah.
Or is it purely a mathematical concept?
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of our imagination.
Right.
But the beauty is that the math behind it is incredibly elegant.
Okay.
Rovelli's theory suggests that these loops, existing outside of our conventional understanding of space and time, interact with each other in a way that gives rise to the very fabric of space-time that we experience.
So it's like saying space and time as we know them are actually emergent properties. Arising from a deeper, more fundamental level of reality.
Exactly.
Kind of like how wetness isn't a property of a single water molecule. But emerges from the interaction of many water molecules.
Precisely. It's a mind-bending idea, but it has the potential to resolve that long-standing conflict between general relativity and quantum mechanics, potentially paving the way for a unified theory of quantum gravity.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal in the world of physics, right?
Huge.
But I have to ask, what are the implications of all this for our everyday understanding of the universe and our place in it?
Right.
I mean, does it really change anything if space-time is a mosaic of tiny loops rather than a smooth, continuous fabric?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
If Rovelli is right, it means that our everyday experience of reality, with its seemingly solid objects and linear flow of time, is just a zoomed-out macroscopic approximation of something far more intricate and dynamic. It's like realizing that the seemingly solid chair you're sitting on is actually a swirling mass of atoms held together by forces we barely understand.
Okay, my mind is definitely swirling now. So if everything is interconnected and constantly in flux at this fundamental level, does that mean our understanding of matter itself needs a makeover?
Absolutely. You see, we're used to thinking of matter as solid, unchanging particles. But in the quantum world, it's much more about dynamic interactions and processes than static things. Instead of imagining an electron as a tiny billiard ball, it's more accurate to picture it as a constantly shifting cloud of possibilities. Its properties constantly being shaped by its relationships with other particles and fields.
So it's less about the building blocks themselves and more about the blueprint. The constant interplay of forces and interactions that create the illusion of solid, separate objects. It's almost like the universe is more of a verb than a noun.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Wow.
And this shift in perspective from things to relationships and actions has profound implications for how we understand not only the universe as a whole, but also our individual place within it.
This is definitely getting pretty deep.
But
I have to say, it's also incredibly fascinating.
It is.
I'm starting to see the world in a whole new light. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and remember that even these revolutionary ideas about loop quantum gravity and the relational universe are still, well, theories.
You're absolutely right.
So even Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics, which have revolutionized our understanding of the universe, are still open to revision as new evidence emerges.
Exactly. Science is a constantly evolving process of discovery,
Okay.
always seeking a deeper understanding of reality. It's less about being right and more about getting closer to the truth,
Right.
even if that truth keeps shifting as we learn more.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this journey of exploration so exciting.
Okay. I'm definitely feeling the excitement building. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the mind-bending world of quantum mechanics to the profound implications of a relational universe and the quest for a unified theory of gravity.
Right.
But there's still some big existential questions looming out there.
Yeah.
Questions that have puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Absolutely.
You know, those big questions.
You're right.
And the beauty of Rovelli's work is that it takes us on a journey that started with physics, but ultimately leads us to those profound philosophical questions about consciousness, free will, and the very meaning of life.
Those big questions.
Well, buckle up, everyone, because it sounds like we're about to enter the philosophical wormhole.
I love it.
In part 3 of our deep dive into Carlo Rovelli's Reality is Not What It Seems, we'll explore the implications of a relational universe for our understanding of consciousness, free will, and the meaning of life itself.
Big stuff.
Stay tuned because it's about to get really existential. Welcome back to our deep dive into Carlo Rovelli's Reality is Not What It Seems. We've journeyed through the quantum realm, explored the idea of a relational universe, and even grappled with the mysteries of gravity. But now we're stepping into even deeper waters, the realm of consciousness, free will, and the ultimate question of the meaning of life itself.
The big stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So
it's fascinating how a book that begins with the physics of the universe can lead us to such profound existential questions.
Oh, no.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is, even across different fields of knowledge.
All right, so let's dive right in.
Okay.
Consciousness, that mysterious phenomenon that makes us aware of ourselves and the world around us.
Right.
How does this idea of a relational universe shed light on something as intangible as consciousness?
Well, if we accept that everything in the universe is interconnected and constantly influencing everything else, then it becomes difficult to see consciousness as something separate, something that exists outside of this web of relationships.
So instead of thinking of consciousness as some kind of magical spark unique to humans, it's more about recognizing that it could be an emergent property. Potentially arising in any sufficiently complex system.
Right.
Like maybe consciousness isn't about having a soul, but about having a certain level of interconnectedness.
That's a very interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it raises all sorts of fascinating questions about the nature of intelligence and the possibility of other forms of consciousness existing in the universe.
Right.
I mean, if a single-celled organism is aware of its surroundings on some basic level, is that a form of consciousness?
Right.
If a network of computers becomes complex enough to learn and adapt, could we consider that a form of consciousness?
Yeah.
These are questions that science is still grappling with.
It's definitely mind-blowing to consider.
Yeah.
But while we're on the topic of mind-blowing questions, let's talk about free will. If everything is interconnected and governed by physical laws, does that leave any room for genuine choice? Or are we just puppets dancing to the strings of the universe?
The age-old debate of free will versus determinism.
Yeah.
It's a question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries.
Right.
And Rovelli doesn't claim to have a definitive answer.
Okay.
But his work does offer some intriguing perspectives.
Okay, so how does a relational universe change the conversation about free will?
It suggests that our choices, our actions, don't happen in isolation. They're influenced by a vast network of factors, both internal and external. Everything from our genes and upbringing to the people we interact with, the books we read, even the weather outside. It's all part of this intricate web that shapes our decisions.
So it's not that we don't have free will. It's that our choices are constantly being shaped and nudged by a whole symphony of influences. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra while the musicians are constantly improvising and playing their own tunes.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
And this perspective might seem to limit our freedom at first glance. But if we dig a little deeper, it can also be incredibly liberating.
Liberating. How so?
Because it frees us from the illusion of complete control, from the burden of thinking we're solely responsible for every outcome in our lives. It reminds us that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. And that our choices are woven into the very fabric of this interconnected universe.
I'm starting to see how that could be liberating.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off in a way.
Right.
It's not all me. It's on this grand cosmic dance we're all participating in.
Exactly. And it also highlights the importance of understanding and acknowledging these interconnected relationships. If our actions have ripple effects throughout this web of interconnectedness, then it becomes even more crucial to act with awareness, compassion, and responsibility.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that even seemingly small choices can have far-reaching consequences, both positive and negative.
Precisely.
And this leads us to perhaps the biggest question of all the meaning of life.
Yeah, the meaning of life.
If everything is interconnected and constantly in flux, does life even have an inherent meaning? Or are we just making it up as we go along?
Right.
All right, deep breaths, everyone.
Yeah.
This is the big one.
This is it.
How does Rovelli approach this age-old question that has haunted philosophers for centuries?
He doesn't offer a simple prepackaged answer, of course. But he does suggest that meaning isn't something we find out there in the universe, like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. It's something we create through our actions and relationships.
So it's not about finding a preordained purpose, but about making our own meaning.
Exactly. In a relational universe, meaning isn't a fixed destination. It's an ongoing journey. It's woven into the very fabric of existence, and it's up to us to discover and express it through our choices, our interactions, and our contributions to the world around us.
It's like saying that the meaning of life isn't written in some cosmic rule book. But in the stories we tell, the relationships we forge, and the impact we have on the world, even in small ways.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it reminds us that even in a vast and seemingly indifferent universe, our lives have significance. We're not just passive observers. We're active participants in this grand cosmic dance, constantly shaping and being shaped by the world around us.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the mind-bending world of quantum mechanics
to
the profound implications of a relational universe
and
the philosophical depths of consciousness, free will, and the meaning of life.
Big question.
Carlo Rovelli's reality is not what it seems has truly challenged our assumptions.
It has.
And expanded our understanding of the universe and ourselves.
It's a book that encourages us to keep asking questions. To embrace the mystery of existence and to appreciate the beauty and interconnectedness of all things.
So if you're ready to have your mind blown wide open and to see the world in a whole new light, I highly recommend checking out Rovelli's work. It's a journey of discovery that will leave you with a sense of awe, wonder, and a renewed appreciation for the incredible universe we inhabit. And who knows, it might even inspire you to find your own meaning and purpose within this vast and interconnected web of existence.
Indeed.
Mom?
The journey of understanding our place in the universe is an ongoing one, and Rovelli's work provides a fascinating and thought-provoking roadmap.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Reality is Not What It Seems.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep wondering.